Hey there, it's your girl Yolanda Yo Win Winston, and I am here with another episode of Nowcom Member Spotlight.
Well, first of all, thanks for taking the opportunity to let me talk.
You're welcome.
I always enjoy doing that. So my name is Steven Levy. I am a business advisor. I operate my own business under the title of SEL and Associates, and I have been operating since the beginning of 2008. And I service all types of clients in and around the greater Huntsville market and work with the owners on whatever it is that they're struggling with. And for those of you that are owners, you know there's always something, you've got an issue that you're just not sure what to do. And I actually provide some really good recommendations and suggestions and help you talk through any issues or problems that you have to try to come up with the best solution based on my knowledge and experience.
Yeah, so if you guys watched the last video with Kristen, you'll remember that we talked about commercial real estate is not just about selling the real estate. We're actually here to help you grow your business in areas that need it, help you in areas where you're kind of stunted. And that's what I love most about what Steven does. So if I come across a client and they're not sure if they're ready to sell their business, they're struggling a little bit, and I'm like, hey, let me get you in touch with this guy. He can help get your business going smooth again, where you can keep it operating, or let's get it to a point where it's going to be more profitable and I can sell it. So either way it goes, you know, Steven's services are amazing if your business is struggling or you're trying to get it to the next level.
Right, and to the point that you were just talking about earlier, there's a lot of business owners now that are reaching that age where they're trying to figure out how to get out of their business. And again, because none of them, or very few of them, have ever done a transaction of selling their business, and especially selling their own, I can work with them on getting them mentally ready for what the process is going to be like, and then also help them make sure that their business is operating at the optimum levels so that they have an actual chance of selling their business and trying to maximize what the value will be from whatever the interested parties are. And for some of the clients, I've actually done some direct contact with companies that are what I call natural buyers. These would be people either in their industry or at least serving the same types of customers that they currently serve, and those companies that might be looking to strategically grow into that business area.
I love it. I love it. Like, you guys know I'm a number nerd. My friend called me the count. So these type of things always interest me. So I do have some questions, you guys. So, you know, I have it on the phone today, so we might time out. But before we get into the nitty gritty of what Steven does, let's learn a little bit about you. How did you get into what you're doing now?
Okay, so like with most folks, I ended up in a place I had no idea I was ever going to need to do or want to do. But sort of the short version story of this is upon getting my bachelor's degree a long time ago, back in 1978, I went to work for a very large multinational company, Texas Instruments. Most of you are familiar with it.
I had a calculator.
And then actually went to work for a company that competed in a line of work that you would not normally associate Texas Instruments with, but they did what's known as cladding of dissimilar metals. And I was working for a division of Texas Instruments that did that in the wire form. And I ended up going to work for their largest competitor in that business, a company called Copperweld, headquartered in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I came in there in a marketing and sales role, and then ultimately through some business growth and company reorganization, my role moved to where the facility that made the products is, which is in Fayetteville, Tennessee, and that's what brought me to this area in 1994. So I moved down here with my family, my wife and my two children, who were young at that point. They're now grown adults and have their own families. But came down here in 94 as the vice president of marketing and sales, and a few years later became the general manager of the entire business group. So I was running a business unit with annual sales of over 150 million, 3 factory locations. The one in Tennessee was my big one, but I had 2 that came in through acquisition, one in Rhode Island and one in the United Kingdom. We did business in over 60 countries.
Oh, wow.
I personally went to about 30 of them to either get things started or keep them going. And then, as we all read and hear about, one day I got a call from the board of directors, and they decided our business is no longer strategic to the corporation, so they put us up for sale. The sale occurred in 2006, which was a major life event for me. The sale was successful, and that was great, but the company that bought it didn't need me to run it. So it was time to go do something else. And that something else started out as business consulting in the industry I came out of.
Okay.
And then morphed into working with entrepreneurial companies in and around the Huntsville market, with the premise being that most business owners usually go into business for any combination of the following three reasons. It's either because they have a strong technical skill, they've got a passion about something, or they just got tired of working for a living for someone else, and they make the leap of faith and they go out on their own. Now, the national statistics still apply. The vast majority of them are going to fail. It's just a fact. It's what's going to happen. But a healthy percentage do actually get off the ground. They start getting some real revenue. They begin to add employees. Maybe they open up a second location. And now that owner has to transition out of being the all-knowing doer in their business and turn into an actual manager of their business. And most of these folks just don't have the experiences to do that. So typically I'll get called in by a business owner on what I call a symptomatic problem,
Okay.
which is usually in one of the following categories. It's a lack of cash,
Okay.
or a lack of profitability in the business. The second one is that they have no time, the business is running their life. And then the third one is their organization keeps making repetitive mistakes,
Okay.
and they can't figure out why or how to stop it. So I call that the low-hanging fruit. And the simple solution to the first one is usually they have undervalued or underpriced their product or service.
Okay.
Or if they're in a B2B environment, they may be giving credit terms to people they shouldn't be giving credit to, and they don't police it and they don't enforce it, and they end up finding themselves with a lot of clients that are 60, 90, 120 days out with a fair amount of cash, and that's why the bank account has no money. So I help them on those areas. The lack of time is a delegation issue. They don't trust that anybody else can make a decision correctly. The problem is they run out of physical time and mental capacity to make every single decision in the business.
Right.
So they've got to develop some key employees to take some leadership roles in their business and allow them to make some of the decisions. And the repetitive mistakes is usually a lack of documentation of systems and processes. And when a key employee leaves that had been handling all the inside sales, as an example, and you bring someone on, there's nothing to use to train that new employee on how to do things. So getting it documented, and just as importantly, making sure the owner is communicating with employees things like their mission and vision for the business, as well as the core values that they want to use as the principles of how they operate. I've worked with a lot of owners developing those things as well with some of the clients that I've had. So once I get a couple of early successes for them, they will get much more comfortable with me, and then they open up a lot more about what's going on in their business, what their real plans are for the business, what their personal definition of success is. And, and there's no judgment on my part whatsoever. I mean, it's whatever
Everybody's
they want.
different.
That's what matters. And then once I kind of get a feel for what they want to do, I can start to work with them on more strategic direction. So things like organization structure, maybe new product or new market introductions. With some of them, we have done either strategic acquisitions or strategic divestitures, depending upon whether all the components of the business are actually doing what they needed to do for their overall success.
Yeah, so you've been doing this for a long time, man. Like, I'm younger than what yeah. But one of those numbers you said I wasn't even on the earth yet. So you've seen a lot of business trends over the years.
Absolutely.
That's amazing.
And one of the neat things about what I do now is because I've worked with so many different businesses and in so many different market segments and product lines, etc.
Oh yeah.
I often learn as much, if not more, from my clients than they learn from me. And the nice thing about that is I get to see some unbelievably great practices on how to run and operate a business, and I also see some unbelievably bad practices, often done by the same owner in the same meeting that I'm having with them. So,
in the same meeting, we're wonderful and wonderfully awful at the same time.
How can you be so smart over here and so dumb over there?
My grandmother called us educated dummies.
Yep.
Oh my goodness. So how long, let's put a number. How long have you been doing this business consulting?
Okay, so again, I started the small business consulting in 2008.
In 2008.
So I'm almost 16 and a half years into it at this point.
Man, I think of our businesses like, as stages of life. It's like, oh, your business can drive now. My business is still in elementary school.
It needs to get old enough to drink.
I know, right? So I love being around at Nowcom, what we call the MVPs. Those are the more seasoned people in the industry, and the newer people we call the rookies, and we're all okay with that. We all love it. So you told us how you started this business. That's what I love to hear most, is how people have come from different industries and have learned the value in what they know and how to now apply that in a different industry and help other people.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things that set me up for success in what I do. Obviously, my almost 30 years of experience in the corporate world, and mostly in senior management roles, including leading a business unit for 7 years, was a great learning ground for all the kinds of things, both what I call the hard side of the business, what numbers to look at, how to put plans together, all those kinds of things, to some of the softer side issues like how to be a good manager, a good leader.
Yeah,
and they're also very important too. So I certainly honed my skills there. But when I made the transition into working with smaller businesses, I actually took an accreditation with an organization called the Institute for Independent Business, which takes in senior executives like myself from all over the world, and they put us through a program that takes about a week. And what they do is they verify we have the business skills we claim. For me, that was the easy part.
Yeah, a lot of claims.
But then they show you how to translate them into working with these entrepreneurial companies in your community. And we went through all different types of scenarios in terms of some of the technical aspects of the job, but the really important part is they gave us a real good blueprint on how to establish yourself as an expert in the area that you're in, and then most importantly, how to find the targeted clients that you're looking for. And so I took a lot of those skills with me, and through a combination of following the recipe and then sometimes going off the path and realizing there was a reason that they highly recommended we do it a certain way, would get myself back on track. But my biggest issue was, because of my job, which was a big time corporate position and a lot of travel, the only people I knew in this area was my family, a couple of neighbors on the street I lived on, and that was about it, because I was pretty much gone Monday through Friday, either going up to the facility in Tennessee that I was in charge of, or going to the airport and traveling to, you name the country or the city in the U.S., wherever it was that I needed to be. So I had to establish myself, and that was the really tough part.
Yeah.
Because I knew I had all these skills, but nobody knows who I am, and nobody, by and large, has any idea what a, quote, business advisor can do for them. So one of the things that was recommended by the accreditation body was to get yourself plugged into various networking groups in your community. And they recommended several, and I ultimately took them up on most of them. So I joined a couple of chambers of commerce, both the Huntsville-Madison County, the large one, but then also inside of the city of Madison, there's another chamber there, and took some active roles in both of those. And then another group that some people are familiar with, others have never heard of before, it's called Business Network International. It is an organized, referral-based networking group that meets on a weekly basis, and have used that to tremendous extent to get myself in front of either business owners who might potentially need me, or in front of people who are working with business owners and have a good relationship with them and can refer me to those business owners. I've had several really, really good referral opportunities that have come up through all of these groups, but I'll talk about BNI specifically, where I was able to get in with a couple of very dynamic business owners who own multiple businesses and were in a circle with a lot of other business owners. And after I provided some really good success and help to them, these folks in turn referred me out to the people they know. So it just kind of mushroomed out very nicely and really made for a very, very good ongoing amount of business for me.
Yeah, so I will attest to that. I'm a networker, and I see Steven out networking a lot. So for someone that is trying to grow their business through networking, what's a few tips that you would give them? Okay,
so the first one is think outside the box. Okay? Because if you're networking with people who are the same people that maybe do the same types of things that you do, it may be good for having camaraderie and having people that you can share common experiences with. but it's not going to refer you a whole bunch of business.
Gotcha.
Okay? So the best example I can give you, and part of the reason why I'm here today, is about 2 years ago, through one of my other networking groups, one of the members of Nowcom had suggested to me that I should come check this group out. And my initial reaction was kind of like what everybody says to me when they ask me why I'm involved with this group, is how are commercial realtors going to help you? And candidly, I wasn't sure how it was going to work.
I know, right?
But what I found out after going to a couple of meetings is that every time a commercial realtor wants to either sell, lease, or help someone buy a property, there are like 1,000 other things that have to happen to get the deal to come together. And amongst others, I mean, some are obvious. You know, they need banks that can lend, they need attorneys that can take them to the closing table, but they need all kinds of services to maybe if it's a new business that they're opening up, they need people that can do remodeling and repair to the building. They may need heating and air conditioning, electrical work, fill in the blank, plumbing, all of the various ancillary services. They need moving companies to get the stuff in or get it out. And in a similar vein, a lot of these businesses can use a business advisor to help them ensure that they have the best likelihood of success with the proper plan, with the right organization structure, that they've really honed in on who their target market is and how they're going to get the word out. And then, of course, how to set up that business to operate profitably, because it really matters. So as my tenure with the group continued as just a regular member, the group decided at its core that they needed a board of directors because they felt they're getting big enough that they actually need some guidance. And of course, they were smart enough, even though the bulk of the board members are commercial realtors of varying expertise and experience, they asked me to be part of the group because they felt we need somebody who has a different perspective and can help us on a broader base about our strategy and how we want to serve our members better. And so I've been coming to the board meetings, I feel like, for at least a year at this point,
Yeah, it's been a year.
if not longer. And I've really enjoyed being part of that and watching the organization grow. And Yolanda, one of our fellow board members, has been instrumental in helping us with programming and getting in good speakers and keeping the energy up in the room as she's doing right now, which is all a good thing.
Y'all know I'm the life of the party. That's amazing. So why did you choose to start your business? Why did you start this business? What was it about entrepreneurs that you wanted to just reach out and help?
Okay, so after my almost 30 years in the corporate world, I figured, okay, I know how to do this. So let me start to apply for other positions in senior management roles with other corporations. But this was back in the 2006 timeframe, and if anybody has a good memory, you'll recall we were just a little bit shy of coming into a pretty significant recession, and there were already some inklings of that when I started looking. So opportunities that were interested in me, I was not that interested in, and then the ones I thought would be a good fit just never led to a material offer. So after spending about a year of looking but not really finding the right thing, I did get some calls from some companies out of the industry I came out of looking for consulting help, and I did do a couple of those assignments in 2007. And after about 3 or 4 of them, decided, you know what, this might not be a bad way to go because I'm getting paid really well when I work. I set my own schedule, and different than an employee, if they ask me to do something I don't want to do, I can say no. Employees rarely have that option.
Yeah.
But just like as I advise to my clients, I did my own little market analysis to see where my opportunities were to do this. And the issue I had is, although I had a lot of expertise in the industry I came out of, with each day that I was away from my day-to-day job, that knowledge and that expertise becomes of less and less value to those companies that I could help. So that's when I knew I needed to add something to the mix, and that's when I connected with the accreditation body, the Institute for Independent Business, to develop that other arm to the business, which is the small business consulting that I do in and around the greater Huntsville market. I mean, I have some clients out in Decatur, and I've done a few down towards Coleman and a couple up towards Tennessee, but the bulk of them are, like I said, in and around the city of Huntsville itself.
Yeah, I love the fact that you have a passion to help and serve. So I wanted to circle back to that.
Okay.
You know, I know we were talking about the board and, you know, you doing everything, and I really just wanted to highlight the relationship. It's all about building relationships and really caring about what you do. Having that passion for your clients is not just a job.
Yeah. I mean, you never want to do something that you don't like. I mean, I see way too many people, and I'm sure a lot of you out there have had the same experience, that their biggest hate in their life is their job. And why would you want to do something that consumes the vast amount of your energy and your time and be miserable?
I know, right?
So it's really nice now. You know, the entrepreneurial side of this thing, at least from my perspective, you know, I spent a long time in an environment where if I needed something done, I had somebody in my organization that could get it done. and now I don't have any of that. So there are some things that
I just snorted.
Yeah. There are some things that either I have had to figure out how to do myself, or I've had to find somebody to help me get them done. But it's very similar to what my clients deal with.
That's why I snorted, because I'm thinking the master even has the same problem.
Same issue. So with a lot of my clients, they have the same problem. And as a general rule, they are very strong technically at what they do, whether they are an electrician, a plumber, an accountant, an attorney, or a doctor. They're all technicians. And even the ones that are highly educated, like the doctors and the attorneys, they've had either none or very, very little business education along the way. And these are some of the ones that do some of the worst things that I run across when it comes to managing their employees, and when it comes to how they handle things like collections and credit for their customers. And again, for the ones that are willing to listen to an outside voice, we can make a lot of headway. I mean, I'll ask my own question here, but one of the questions I always get, so how many, you know, what are your competitors like? Who do you compete with? And I said, well, there's other people in this community that do what I do. I'll say very smugly that there are very few that have my level of experience and have dealt with the kinds of things that I've dealt with over the years, but they work really good for the customers that have decided that that's where the fit is. But my biggest competition truly is the ego of the owner, because one of the first questions I will often get from a skeptical business owner when we're having a conversation is, so what could you possibly teach me about heating and air conditioning? I've been doing this for 35 years. What could you possibly know? And my response is always, I don't expect to do anything that's going to help you be better technically in your business. I'm going to leave that to you. I'm not going to show you how to fix them faster or less expensively or doing it more reliably. That's the technical stuff. That's for you to figure out and to do. But the how you go about doing your business is where I can help you. So when you get into, again, things like business strategy, business planning, organization structure, do I have the right people in the right seats, or do we need to make some changes? How to introduce change into the organization, because again, most of these owners they've always got new ideas running through their head of things that they want to go do. And what I try to get them to do is talk out loud with me about what those ideas are, so we can fully develop them and you know, challenge ourselves to say, okay, have we really thought this through all the way? And if we haven't, where do we need to beef it up? But if we've gotten it to a point where we think we've got a pretty good idea what we want to do, then we go implement it. And some of my clients have also needed the help in the actual implementation, because again, they just don't have the bandwidth to get it done. So I've worked with some of the slightly larger companies that I've worked with to get in with their leadership or management teams and help them in the implementation of things that we're trying to get done.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about how you find your customers. You do a lot of networking. You get a lot of referrals.
Right.
So do you have, what would be the third? What would be the third runner for that?
Okay, so the one other thing that I've done over the years is I will do education. So I'll be brought in by some other organization to be a speaker on some business related topic, and I've actually built a library that's unbelievably large of my own content, and this is all done way before artificial intelligence became the cheap and easy way to go do it. But I do actually have all my own content on virtually every business topic that you can think from, literally from cradle to grave and everything in between.
I love it.
And I can talk for as little as 10 minutes, or I can talk for as long as a couple hours. most of the stuff I do is usually in the 15 to 30 minute range, and then usually allow an opportunity for questions and answers. And this is a great way to demonstrate my expertise. but also to trigger with some of these business owners that, you know what, he knows something I don't know, I need to talk to him.
Right, right. So we talked a little bit about how you can help entrepreneurs. I know you offer different platforms, groups, and things like that. So can you tell us, like, in addition, what other services you offer and how you offer those services?
Okay, so there's really two different ways that I work with my clients. The bulk of it is what I call one-on-one advising with the business owner. So basically what that amounts to is we have an initial conversation. I do that at no cost with them. I get a flavor for how they got started, what was working in their business, and then more importantly, what's now keeping them up at night.
I like that question.
And then,
I'm going to use that. What's keeping you up at night?
Okay. And they'll usually share some symptomatic problem, not the root issue, but they'll give me a specific problem they're dealing with, and we'll talk about it, and I'll start to make some suggestions on how they might address it. And then we get towards the back end of the conversation, and I'll ask them if they feel they have the wherewithal to go do what we just discussed.
Okay.
In most cases, they're going to say, I don't know. I'm not sure I know how to do that. And at that point, I have the opportunity to present one of my programs and engagement with them as to how I would help them get that done.
Gotcha.
Now, I custom tailor everything. I do not do cookie cutter type programs where everybody follows the same workbook or guideline, which I know some of the other folks that I compete with, they tend to do that. And again, for some people it works fine, and that's great. But what we do is we basically set a schedule and a list of topics that we want to hit, and based on how much of my time they can afford and how much time they have to meet with me in a productive setting, we'll get on some type of a regular schedule. We might meet once a week for an hour or 90 minutes. We might meet every other week for a couple of hours. I've got a few that I only meet with monthly, but it's whatever works for them. We go through issue by issue, and like I said, if I can get a couple of early successes with them, they will stay with me for a much longer period of time. And I've had clients that they're still ongoing, but they're 5-6 years in of using me. And then I have others where it's a shorter engagement. We fix whatever it is, and we're done. And then the most common ones run about 18 months, and usually we sort of get to a point where the owner feels they've gotten enough out of me at that time. As I like to say, I get fired a lot. and I've learned to get used to that and not take it personally.
I didn't think about that,
But the interesting part is I always try to leave on the best of terms with the owner, and I probably have done that in about 99% of the cases, so that they feel comfortable. If they need me back, they call me in. And I have a lot of clients that, we do a couple of years, we take a pause for a couple of years, and they call me back. And the best example I can give you is the very first month of the pandemic in 2020, back in, I guess, mid-March through the middle of April. I must have had a half a dozen of my former clients call me up.
Go figure.
and said, I know it's been a while since I've had you in, but I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And my under the breath comment would be, well, I'm not exactly sure what to do either, but if you'll re-engage with me, we'll go figure it out. And we did. So I actually had quite a few that brought me back in, and again used me for a pretty healthy period of time.
Yeah, and what I'm hearing is your services are ongoing. It's when either they'll need you continuously as they learn, or incrementally as they hit certain plateaus and they need help getting over that into the next hump.
It's the next phase. And I have a lot of them that will call me and say, I'm stuck. That's kind of the theme. And again, we chat a little bit about what's going on, what's transpired over the period of time that I hadn't been coming in on a regular basis. They get me up to speed pretty quick, and then we dive into it. Now, the other mechanism that I use to work with business owners is I have a facilitated CEO roundtable group that meets monthly.
Yeah, that was the one.
And I have currently 8 business owners, again, all different walks of life in terms of what they do. So, we are category exclusive in there because we certainly don't want two that are competing entities in the room, but they're all very diverse in what they do. They're very diverse in their size and scale. But the common thread as a business owner is there's 2 major things that we always talk about: finding and retaining customers and managing your employees. And that's about 90% of what we talk about. And again, it doesn't matter whether they have 5 employees or they have 75. The issues are the same.
Okay.
And the whole bit about customer, finding customers and retaining customers, same issue. How do we do that? So I've been facilitating that group since 2016.
Okay.
The group itself had started on its own back around 2012. They did have an initial facilitator that did that for them. Unfortunately, he passed away. Oh. But a couple of the members in the group were clients of mine that I knew fairly well. And when they needed, they knew they needed to replace the one that got sick and then ultimately passed away, they asked me if I would be interested, and I said, of course. I don't know how their decision process worked, but needless to say, they elected to use me, and I've been with the group ever since, and I've been using it as also a way to get people to get the benefit of not only what I know, but also the people in the room, and help them as well when they have issues inside of their business to try to figure out the best solution. And it's a much more affordable way for them to get some of that help that they need.
Gotcha.
It's almost a little bit of a therapy session, if you think about it.
Business therapy?
It is, because business owners, for those of you that are not, I will tell you, it's the loneliest job on the planet, because by and large, you really have nobody to talk to. There are some things that you can share with your employees, but there's a lot of stuff you just can't and shouldn't. Your spouse or significant other, all they want to know is, are we going to be able to pay the mortgage or the kids' college tuition this month? They don't want to hear about all the rest of the minutia that's going on.
Every day.
and then candidly, even if you have some friends or family members that you think you can talk to about it, everybody else around you just assumes because you own your business, you're automatically rich, you control your own time, you control your schedule, you need something done, you bark orders at people and they jump to it and they take care of it for you. And if you want to go take a 3-week vacation, you go and life goes on. And the realities of this are the exact opposite. As an owner, you're the last person paid in your business. Managing employees is hard. And if you don't have a good process and structure in place on how your business runs, you can barely get away for a 3-day weekend, let alone go take a 2-week trip somewhere. So these are all things that are common issues that the owners have. A lot of times when I meet with some of them and they'll actually open up to me, they will say, surely you've never had a business that's this bad. and I always tell them, no, there's always somebody else that's worse out there.
Make them feel good.
Yep, but it's true, because every business goes through cycles. I mean,
Gotcha.
and every business faces challenges, and every business has some great upmarket situations where everything they do seems to go right, and then all of a sudden everything they do seems to go wrong. And again, having that person that you can share, okay, what did I do? What could I have done? What should I do? Because again, with my 45 plus years of doing this type of business and industry work, coupled with the 16 years of the small business consulting, there's not a situation they presented to me that I haven't dealt with. It might have a different name, but there's not a situation I haven't come across. And to know that, one, it's never as bad as it seems, but I also remind them it's never as good as it seems to be as well. So let's make sure we're still operating and doing the things that we know are the best practices to make sure that the business continues to be successful.
All right, there's nothing new up under the sun.
No.
So can you share with us a success story of one of your clients or customers?
Sure. Now, I can't give names.
Please don't.
But the two that are my favorites. There is a local heating and air conditioning company that I started to work with back in 2012. Worked with them for about 5 years. Took them from a point where the owner had finally gotten enough employees that he no longer also had to be the chief technician and do the service calls. So the timing was good when I met him. And over that 5 years or so, we grew the business from a little under $1 million in sales to about $4 million. This was one of those where he had gotten to a point where he was good, didn't need to continue to use me. But one of the last things I did with them is we put together a strategic plan on some additional growth opportunities and business opportunities they could get into. And I still have some relationships with some folks in the company. Their annual sales are now well over 10 million on a regular basis. And some of the things we talked about in terms of other market segments to go after, they're now doing. So I feel really good about that one. And then I've got another one that was a heavy equipment rental company, and I did some work with them in the 2016-2017 timeframe. The engagement came to a close. This is one of the ones that called me back in when the pandemic hit. So when I worked with them on the first go around, the equipment that they were renting was pretty much up and down the I-65 corridor.
Okay.
But they needed more business, and so I got them working on a regional strategy, and ultimately we selected going towards the eastern side of the country, so states like Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, Florida were strategically attacked and quite successfully. So when I came back in 2020, right at the start of the pandemic, again, they didn't know what they needed to do, and I said, well, your first regional push worked really well, let's go do another one. And we went west this time, so we went into like Texas and Oklahoma and up into southern Illinois and the like. So the business, when I first was with them, they were probably about 7 million in revenue. By the time I left them, that had grown to about 11. When I came back in, they had jumped up to about 17, and in 2022, their sales had peaked out at about 23 or 24 million, and they became a acquisition target from one of the largest companies in that industry, and the business sold for north of $80 million.
Wow, like you guys, I can't stop cheesing because just to see that growth in a company, I bet that was amazing.
It was. Yep.
Wow, it's like, this is why you do what you do.
That's it.
So I did take a sneak peek at your website and saw some of the heavy hitters that you've worked with. So you guys be sure to check his website out. So what is the best way for someone to refer you or get in contact with you?
Okay, well, first, in order to get in contact with me, you can either email me, you can text me, or you can call me. Real quick, it's SEL and Associates is the business name. My web address is StevenLevyAssociates.com. And then my phone number is 256-656-8890. And you can call or text me on that number, and I will get back to you in an appropriate amount of time, assuming I'm not currently meeting with a client. So in any event, that's the best way you can reach me. I am out and about in the community a lot. Again, I do a lot of networking, so you may already know who I am through some of the other things that I do. But in terms of referring me, if you've got somebody that you know or that you're working with that is a business owner, I know a lot of them, if they've got someone in the room that's there to talk to them about whatever the product or service is that they offer, the business owner will often bring up what's going on in the business, and there's more often than not, they're going to talk about some issue or problem they've been struggling with, and they're looking for some feedback on how to help. Most folks don't usually know how to respond to that. But if you have a business owner that's talking about an issue that they can't decide what to do, or they don't know what to do, just ask them, who do you talk to when you don't know what to do? And in most cases, they're going to look at you and say, you know what, I really don't have anybody. And as soon as they say, I don't have anybody, all you need to say is, I know this gentleman, Steven Levy, he's a business advisor, he's really good at it, and he will gladly meet with you. His first meeting is at no cost, and he will give you some ideas or suggestions on how to deal with whatever you're dealing with. Would you like to meet him? And in most cases, they will say yes. and at that point, we'll figure out how to get the initial meeting set up, and I'll sit with them for anywhere from 60 minutes to 90 minutes and let them talk about what's going on and what's the issue that they're struggling with, and we'll talk about some real world practical solutions to do that. And I know I described earlier sort of how the rest of the sale process works, but that's all it takes to get it started. If you know someone that is a business owner and you're still not quite sure how to introduce me, by all means, set up maybe a three-way meeting. We meet for coffee or lunch somewhere, and we'll just chat a little bit, and I'll take it from there. If there's an opportunity that I can do something for them, I will.
I'm sure you can. It's just a matter if they'll listen and do it. That's the big thing. That's the big thing. They have to listen and trust what Steven says. So I know I have gained so much from being a member of NowCom with Steven, being on the board with Steven, and sometimes I just watch him work the room. And I pick up things. I've been to some B&I meetings, and I've listened to, everybody has an elevator pitch, and I love it. So you guys, if you, like he said, if you are struggling with your business, if you know someone that is struggling with their business and they need help, they want help, and they're going to implement the help, please reach out to Steven. He is a great resource to the Huntsville business community. You guys, I thank you so much for joining us again. Be sure to tune in for our next member spotlight, and we really appreciate you. We'll see you later.
Okay, bye.
Bye.